Sex after 60. Why women really lose desire after 60 and why no one talks about it. Welcome back to 60 Wise Living Advice, where we celebrate the beauty, wisdom, and endless possibilities of life after 50. Today, we're addressing something that affects millions of women, but is rarely discussed openly: the complex reasons why sexual desire often changes after 60, and why society seems determined to keep this conversation in the shadows. This isn't just about physical changes. It's about understanding the intricate web of factors that influence our intimate lives as we mature. Virginia Woolf once wrote, "For most of history, Anonymous was a woman." When it comes to women's sexuality after 60, we're still living in that anonymity. Our experiences unnamed, our struggles unacknowledged, our truths untold. But today, we're changing that narrative. Before we dive into these important truths, let me be clear. This conversation isn't about fixing what's broken or returning to who you used to be. It's about understanding what's really happening in your body, your mind, and your life so you can make informed choices about your intimate future. It's about recognizing that changes in desire don't mean the end of passion. They often signal the beginning of a different, deeper understanding of what intimacy can mean. The silence around this topic has left too many women feeling isolated, abnormal, or broken when they're actually experiencing something completely natural and understandable. Today, we're breaking that silence with compassion, wisdom, and the kind of honest conversation that can transform how you see yourself and your sexuality. So let's explore the real reasons behind these changes, the ones no one talks about, but everyone needs to understand.
The first truth: your body is protecting you from what it perceives as stress. Here's something most doctors won't tell you. When women lose desire after 50, it's often because their bodies have shifted into what I call protective mode. This isn't failure. It's biology being brilliantly designed to respond to the complex realities of midlife. The ancient wisdom of traditional Chinese medicine teaches us that the body is always seeking balance and protection. When your system detects chronic stress, whether from caregiving responsibilities, work pressures, relationship tensions, or health concerns, it naturally redirects energy away from reproduction and desire towards survival and healing. What's profound about this protective response is that it's rooted in millions of years of evolutionary wisdom. Your body understands something that your mind might resist. When resources are stretched thin and survival feels uncertain, sexual desire naturally takes a back seat to more pressing needs. This isn't dysfunction, it's intelligent adaptation. Think about what your life looks like at 50 and beyond. You might be caring for aging parents while supporting adult children, managing your own health changes while dealing with career transitions, grieving losses while trying to maintain relationships. Your nervous system reads all of this as chronic stress, and in response, it downregulates the hormones and neural pathways associated with sexual desire and pleasure. This stress response affects your body at the cellular level. Chronic stress elevates cortisol, which directly suppresses testosterone and other hormones crucial for desire. It also impacts your nervous system's ability to shift from fight or flight mode into the relaxed, receptive state necessary for sexual arousal and pleasure. This isn't your body betraying you. It's your body being wise. When survival feels uncertain, desire becomes secondary. Your system is saying, let's focus on staying safe and healthy first, and we'll worry about passion when the coast is clear. Sarah, 54, discovered this connection during a particularly challenging period. I was caring for my mother with dementia while dealing with my own perimenopause and my husband's job loss. I kept wondering what was wrong with me that I felt no desire for intimacy. My doctor just suggested hormone replacement therapy. But when I worked with a counselor who understood the stress connection, everything made sense. My body wasn't broken, it was overwhelmed. The revelation for Sarah came when she realized that her lack of desire wasn't a medical problem requiring pharmaceutical intervention. It was her body's intelligent response to an unsustainable level of chronic stress. Once she began addressing the underlying stressors in her life and creating more support systems, her capacity for desire naturally began to return. The key insight here is that addressing desire often means addressing the underlying stress patterns in your life, not just the physical symptoms. Your body needs to feel safe emotionally, physically, and mentally before it can feel desire. This might mean setting better boundaries, asking for help with caregiving responsibilities, addressing relationship issues, or simply acknowledging that you're carrying too much and need to redistribute the load. Understanding this truth can be incredibly liberating because it shifts the focus from fixing your sexuality to creating conditions where your natural desire can emerge safely once again.
The second truth. Hormonal changes create a perfect storm, but it's more complex than just estrogen. Yes, declining estrogen plays a role in decreased desire, but focusing only on hormones misses the bigger picture. What's really happening is a complex interplay between multiple hormonal systems that affects not just your libido, but your entire relationship with your body and sexuality. As the wise physician Hippocrates said, the natural healing force within each of us is the greatest force in getting well. Understanding your hormonal changes isn't about viewing them as broken systems to fix, but as natural transitions that require new forms of wisdom and adaptation. As estrogen decreases, so does the natural lubrication and sensitivity that once made physical intimacy effortless. But here's what's rarely discussed. Testosterone levels also decline significantly in women after 50, and testosterone is crucial for sexual desire and arousal. This isn't just about physical function. Testosterone affects your brain's motivation centers, your sense of confidence, and your willingness to initiate intimate connection. Additionally, cortisol levels often remain chronically elevated due to midlife stresses, creating what researchers call cortisol steal, where your body prioritizes stress hormone production over sex hormone production. This creates a cascading effect where stress literally steals the building blocks your body needs to create desire. But there's an even deeper layer that most healthcare providers miss. These hormonal changes fundamentally affect your brain's reward system. The same neurochemicals, dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphins that once made touch feel amazing and anticipation feel exciting are now operating at different baseline levels. Your brain's pleasure and reward system have literally been rewired by decades of hormonal fluctuations. This neurochemical shift means that what once felt arousing might now feel merely pleasant, or what once created desire might now feel neutral. It's not that you're broken. Your brain's entire pleasure and reward system has evolved, and it now requires different types of stimulation to activate those same pathways. Dr. Christiane Northrup explains this isn't necessarily a problem to be solved, but an evolution to be understood. Your body may be guiding you toward different forms of intimacy, deeper emotional connections, or a renewed focus on other aspects of life and relationships. What feels like loss might actually be redirection toward more meaningful forms of connection. Margaret, 58, shared her profound revelation. I spent 2 years trying every hormone therapy available, thinking something was fundamentally wrong with my body. I tried patches, pills, creams, and supplements, always chasing the desire I used to feel effortlessly. Finally, a wise healthcare provider explained that maybe my body wasn't failing, maybe it was transitioning to a different phase of sexuality. Instead of fighting the changes, I started exploring what intimacy could look like now and I discovered forms of connection I'd never experienced before. Margaret's journey illustrates something crucial. When we stop trying to recreate our younger sexual selves and start exploring what our current selves might want, we often discover that hormonal changes haven't diminished our capacity for pleasure. They've refined it, made it more selective, more meaningful, more aligned with who we've become. The truth is, hormonal changes don't have to mean the end of sexuality. They often mean the beginning of a more intentional, mindful approach to intimate connection. Your body may be guiding you toward quality over quantity, presence over performance, emotional intimacy over physical urgency. Understanding this can transform your entire relationship with these changes, from resistance to curiosity. What is my body trying to teach me? What forms of connection am I being guided toward? How might this transition be serving my deeper well-being in ways I haven't yet recognized?
The third truth: years of sexual conditioning finally catch up. This is perhaps the most profound truth that no one discusses. Many women after 50 are experiencing the cumulative effect of decades of sexual experiences that prioritized their partner's pleasure over their own, their performance over their authentic desire. The feminist writer Audre Lorde wrote, "The master's tools will never dismantle the master's house." In sexuality, this means that the sexual scripts we were handed, scripts that taught us to be responsive rather than assertive, giving rather than receiving, will never lead us to authentic fulfillment. For generations, women were taught that good sex meant being responsive to male desire rather than cultivating their own. Many women spent their 20s, 30s, and 40s having sex that was pleasant enough, but not deeply satisfying, focused on giving pleasure rather than receiving it, concerned with how they looked and performed rather than how they felt. This conditioning runs deeper than most realize. From childhood, many women learned to prioritize others' comfort over their own pleasure. In sexuality, this translated into decades of focusing outward. Am I pleasing him? Do I look attractive? Rather than inward toward their own authentic experience. By the time you reach 50, your body and mind may be unconsciously saying, "Enough, I'm tired of performing sexuality instead of experiencing it." What feels like lost desire might actually be your authentic self finally refusing to participate in sex that doesn't truly serve you. The renowned sex therapist Esther Perel notes that many women discover their true sexuality only after menopause because they're finally free from biological pressures of reproduction and social pressures of performing conventional femininity. Linda, 61, experienced this awakening. "I realized I'd been having sex for my husband's satisfaction for 30 years. I'd convinced myself I enjoyed it, but when my desire disappeared, I had to face the truth. I'd never really learned what actually brought me pleasure. When I stopped trying to force the old patterns and started exploring what I actually wanted, everything changed." This conditioning fatigue is your psyche's way of clearing the slate so you can discover what authentic desire and pleasure look like for you without the performance expectations that may have overshadowed your earlier sexual experiences. The loss of conditioned desire creates space for authentic desire. Desire that arises from your own truth, your own body's wisdom. This isn't a lesser form of sexuality. It's often far richer because it's rooted in honesty rather than performance.
The fourth truth: grief and loss reshape your capacity for pleasure. By 60 and beyond, most women have experienced significant losses. Parents, friends, health, dreams, or versions of themselves they thought they'd always be. What no one tells you is that grief doesn't just affect your emotions, it fundamentally alters your nervous system's capacity for pleasure and desire. Grief creates what psychologists call anhedonia, a decreased ability to experience pleasure in activities that once brought joy. This doesn't just apply to hobbies or interests, it extends to physical pleasure and sexual desire as well. When you're processing the loss of your younger self, your premenopausal body, your role as an active parent, or beloved people who've passed away, your system naturally prioritizes healing over pleasure seeking. It's not depression. It's the natural process of integration and transformation that comes with having lived long enough to experience real loss. Additionally, many women are grieving the loss of their former sexual selves without even realizing it. The spontaneous desire of youth, the easy arousal, the uncomplicated relationship with your body, these losses are real and worthy of acknowledgement. Patricia, 63, found healing in naming this grief. I kept thinking something was wrong with me for not wanting sex anymore. Then a therapist helped me realize I was grieving my mother's death, my children leaving home, my changing body, even grieving the young woman who used to feel desire so easily. Once I honored that grief instead of fighting it, I could begin to explore what desire might look like in this new phase of life. Grief doesn't last forever, but it needs to be witnessed and honored before pleasure can fully return. Sometimes the path back to desire runs directly through the acknowledgement of what you've lost. The fifth truth: you're finally free to discover what you actually want. Here's the revolutionary truth that no one discusses. The loss of conventional desire after 60 might not be a problem. It might be liberation. You're finally free from the biological imperative to reproduce, the social pressure to be sexually available, and the performance expectations that may have shaped your intimate life for decades. This freedom can initially feel like emptiness or loss because you're so accustomed to external motivations for sexuality. But within that space lies the opportunity to discover what authentic desire feels like when it arises from your own truth rather than others' expectations. Many women discover that their desire doesn't disappear, it transforms. It becomes less about frequency and more about quality, less about performance and more about presence, less about meeting expectations and more about authentic connection with themselves and their partners. The poet Adrienne Rich wrote about this as revisioning, looking at old experiences with fresh eyes and new understanding. Your relationship with sexuality gets to be completely revisioned based on who you are now, not who you were at 25 or 35. Eleanor, 67, described her transformation. When I stopped trying to feel desire the way I used to and started paying attention to what actually moved me now, everything shifted. I discovered I wanted deeper emotional intimacy, more sensual touch, longer conversations. My sexuality became about presence and connection rather than performance and frequency. It's more satisfying now than it ever was before. This isn't about settling for less. It's about discovering that there might be more to sexuality than you ever imagined. Forms of intimate connection that are only possible when you're free from the constraints that shaped your earlier experiences. What would happen if instead of mourning the loss of your younger sexual self, you got curious about what your mature sexual self might want to explore? What if this isn't the end of your sexual story, but the beginning of its most authentic chapter?
As we come to the end of this deeply personal conversation, I want you to breathe in this liberating truth. There is nothing wrong with you. Your changing relationship with desire isn't a failure of your body, your mind, or your spirit. It's evidence that you're a complex, evolving human being responding intelligently to the realities of your life. The 5 truths we've explored today: your body's protective wisdom, the complexity of hormonal changes, the fatigue from years of sexual conditioning, the impact of grief and loss, and your newfound freedom to discover authentic desire. These aren't problems to be solved. They're doorways to understanding and, ultimately, to a more authentic relationship with your sexuality. What makes this conversation so crucial is that it challenges the narrative that women should remain sexually unchanged by age, experience, or wisdom. Instead, it honors the truth that our sexuality, like every other aspect of our being, has the right to grow, change, and evolve as we do. Your desire may look different now than it did at 25, 35, or even 45. It may be quieter, more selective, more emotionally driven, or expressed in entirely new ways. This isn't diminishment. This is refinement. This is the wisdom that comes from finally understanding what truly serves you. To every woman listening who has felt broken, abnormal, or somehow failing because her desire has changed, please hear this. You are not alone. You are not broken, and you are certainly not finished. You're transitioning into a phase of life where authenticity becomes possible in ways it never was before. If this conversation has resonated with your experience, please consider subscribing to our 60 Wise Living Advice family. When you subscribe, you're joining a community of women who believe that every stage of our lives deserves honest conversation, compassionate understanding, and the support to become who we're meant to be at every age. And please, share this video with another woman who might need to hear these truths. Sometimes we all need permission to stop fighting our natural evolution and start embracing the wisdom our bodies and hearts are offering us. Until we meet again next week, remember this: your worth isn't measured by your desire. Your value isn't determined by your sexuality. And your future isn't limited by the changes you're experiencing now. You are worthy of understanding, compassion, and the freedom to define intimacy and connection on your own terms. Keep honoring your truth, beautiful souls. The world needs women who are brave enough to speak honestly about the full spectrum of what it means to be female, sexual, and beautifully, authentically alive at every age.